Creative Katie here, Karen Virtual, Index Card of Day 2017. We are on card 45 and the prompt is night or night sky. So I'm thinking about stars. Links to any specialized projects will be in the description box. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already a subscriber, go back and check and make sure that you've selected the option of being notified of newly released videos. So I'm bringing out my Inktense blocks for this one, and there's the quote that I'm going to use, wish upon a star. Now my Inktense blocks were one of my very first purchases. I actually bought them before I went into mixed media and art journaling. I was into watercolor at the time, and then I needed to figure out ways of using this medium in art journaling, in mixed media. And I actually found lots of ways that we can incorporate these wonderfully versatile products into our mixed media projects. And please check out my playlist on the Inktense blocks, because if you have them, you really need to dig them out and start using them in the variety of ways that they can be used. So I just scribble on in a couple colors and get it nice and wet. And I'm just holding it down because of course the card is buckling. Now this was a gesso card, and I'm sprinkling some sea salt on here. Now every different kind of salt that you use is going to give a slightly different effect. So play with them and see which ones you like the best. So after letting that dry, and I admit I used a heat tool, I'm just very gently with the pads of my fingers rubbing off the salt. I wanted this kind of mottled, kind of starry night kind of look to this background, and I wanted some of this texture that you get with this effect. And I will put a link to my mixed media technique tag video where I use the salt technique using all sorts of color mediums, including the Inktense blocks. Now these stars were actually the discarded pieces from a stencil that I cut with my silhouette, and I just had this in my stash. Now it's colored on here because I had a failed attempt with this card. I tried to do basically a similar effect, but I put the paint on top of what was Gelatos. It was a cleanup print from Gelatos and stuff, and the acrylic paint actually peeled off. So I ended up doing it again. Now look at what happened here. Wherever the salt was actually ended up acting as a resist, giving this absolutely awesome effect. I was just like, oh my gosh. So good to know. I will use this in the future. Now that I know that this can happen, that the salt from the salt technique will act as a resist to the paint. Now I'm using Prussian blue, not black on here. I thought that black would be a little too stark, and I want it to kind of stick in with the blues and the greens. And I just peeled off I've got a little bit of tape underneath these stars, and that's what's holding them down as I sponge the paint on with paint. Now I'm using my script stamp, and I'm thinking, okay, I just want a little bit of extra something. This is what I did in my first attempt. Now with the way the salt technique worked here and the resist, you don't see a whole lot of this, but it does add a little bit of interest. And I use the silver, so you get that little bit of shine there. Silver works really good with the blues. Always, when you use your stamps, wash them. I sprayed it with a mixture of my Murphy's oil soap, dish soap, and water. And I just keep that on hand for cleaning up. So I'm just edging this with the Prussian blue, and I'm just loving this color combination. It's just, yeah. Getting out the sentiment, and I'm just going to fussy cut around the word wish and then block it around upon a star. So this is something that you can do with your computer. If you're printing off sentiments, you can mix and match the fonts and get a very customized look. Now the Inktense blocks are ink, and they are mostly permanent when done. But if it hasn't sat for a while and been completely dried, there is a chance that it may reactivate. So, I'm using a very gentle touch. And I'll put a link to the technique tag video where I talk about having fun with fonts and all the things you can do mixing and matching with fonts, because it really does give the finishing touch to your page, canvas, card, what have you. So this is Liquitex acrylic ink, and I've just put it in a container and I'm painting it on with my liner brush. I did try my Unibo Signo, and I was just having some struggles with it today, and I just decided that this is the easiest way. If you don't have the acrylic ink, you can thin down white acrylic paint and do the same thing. With the liner brush, make sure you clean it right away to get any of the ink or acrylic paint out of the bristles so that you can keep a fine point. Would you have left this without the white? Or would you have put the white like I did? Now I'm just touching up a little bit, making a little brighter, whiter. Because the Inktense block, some of it may reactivate, it will color the white. But as I look at it now, it stays pretty true white. So there wasn't a whole lot of bleed through. There definitely would have been more if I had used the Dilutions paints or Distress inks. Then I decide I'm going to add a little bit of silver around the edge. And I want it kind of clumpy, just so you get that glob of silver. And that brings this to an end. I absolutely love the card. It took some doing to get it to this point with my failed attempt, but it ended up even better than I was picturing. Love these colors, the combination. Learned a new fact that the salt technique ends up being a resist. Gotta love that. Thanks for watching. 15 more ICADs to go.